It's South East London. It's not like the big clubs. People come from all over the place.
It's just like a part of it. You know what I mean? It's your domain. It's your place. It's your team. You feel safe there because it's your club.
Millwall supporters are loyal. I'll tell you, they stick together, and it's something like that's important. You understand it or you don't.
So it's what you're brought up with, you know, like with your mum and your dad, and my mum even likes coming.
I've had the best times of my life with Millwall and the people I'm down here with. And I'm not talking about it, you know, it's kind of a social offshoot Millwall. It is Millwall.
The supporters of Millwall Football Club, the Lions, gather at the Den at the end of their first season in the First Division, 104 years after the club was founded. It has been an exciting season, which saw Millwall named by the Football Trust as Community Club of the Year. This may come as a surprise to those for whom the name Millwall has become a byword for all that is wrong with football. The club's dismal image and the reputation of its supporters for hooliganism and brutality has entered popular folklore. So how did this reputation come about, and how far is it justified? There is a long history behind the image, a history of supporting traditions, of poor relations between supporters and directors, of abuse from the media. Years of frustration and lack of success have resulted in a siege mentality at Coldblow Lane. The voices of the supporters have largely gone unheard. This programme will trace their history, a history that has led to the defiant anthem, "No one likes us, we don't care." Millwall Rovers was founded in 1885 on the Isle of Dogs in London's East End. The early teams played on sites around Millwall Dock, earning them the nickname of the Dockers. They came from a background of poverty, hard work and danger, where toughness was necessary for survival. The Isle of Dogs, cut off by the docks, was poor, but proud of its isolation. It saw itself as separate and different. In the 1880s, the working classes of Britain became football mad, or at least the men. For most women, Saturday afternoon off meant housework and childcare, not leisure. Millwall were a local works team at Morton's food factory. Many of the workers had come from Scotland in search of work, bringing with them their colours, blue and white, their flag, the Cross of St Andrew, and their symbol, the lion rampant. Despite early success, the club remained poor. The directors' lack of ambition in not joining the Football League meant that they long remained a low-status local team. This was a time when hard-working men got together for football and a drink on their Saturday afternoons. In those early days, the team was sponsored by local pubs, like the George, often owned by club shareholders who profited by their association with football. But in search of bigger crowds and higher revenue, the directors deserted the island and moved south across the Thames to Deptford. The Den opened in 1910. Despite their anger at not being consulted, many supporters from the Isle of Dogs remained loyal.
My family come from the Isle of Dogs, the original Millwall, and his father supported Millwall from the foundation of the club. My father came down here with his brothers, and I think it was 1910 when they come to the Den. They just carried on from there. They used to walk through the foot tunnel at Greenwich and come through, and that's how it's all started.
The new supporters from Berm-on-sea, Rotherhithe, Deptford had a similar background. Most were dockers, vocal in their support and renowned for speaking their minds. Football fever continued to dominate the free time of huge numbers of working-class men and boys.
With them. It's a damn nuisance out here every day.
You're doing
I don't know,
it?
but come on in here, you. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Get in there,
Don't
you.
you let me catch you playing
Get in
football
here.
anymore.
Here, this
Go on.
policeman's going to lock
Any
you
more
up.
football
Go on.
communion, you go.
Never
Go on,
mind
you
the
go.
side.
My father first brought me down here in 1920s, late, and I was a youngster. And of course, straight away I took to watching Millwall, and it stuck in my blood. It's like being inoculated. I got the jab, and that was it. And then I started coming down here and supporting them. When I had the time off, I played football a bit myself, but of course I still had my thoughts for Millwall. I used to live and sleep in Millwall. There's photographs all around the wall, indoors and what have you.
A record crowd packed into the Millwall ground for the only cup tie in London, and before the game began, hundreds left their places and ran to find better seats. Order was restored after a time, and then the teams came out. First Millwall, while the crowd surged and swayed like a wheat field in a wind. Then the white-jerseyed men from the north, Derby County.
At last, Millwall were in the Football League, and they maintained their reputation for cup challenges, as in the 5th round against Derby County in 1937.
Thrills came early. A vigorous attack by Derby found the Millwall goal in danger. A shot. But it went safely into the crowd. Again the onlookers got restive and rushed across the pitch. Then once more the play got really exciting and the spectators got all worked up. A few minutes later came the first goal for Derby. A battering attack found Keane in possession and he scored.
It became common for huge crowds to gather at the Den, and in cinema newsreels of the period, we get a glimpse of those supporters. The present capacity is 24,000, but in 1937, crowds of 47,000 were packed into the same small stadium.
Batting for that extra goal to get into round 6. It seemed that Millwall had it. From the centre, the ball went to Mangnall, who popped it into the Derby net, but it was offside. Are you still eating? At last, Millwall's persistent attack had its reward. McCartney took the ball and nicked it in.
They were crowds whose enthusiasm literally knew no bounds.
And for a finish, the crowd ran wild, bursting over the pitch in a crazy, chaotic mass. A cup tie never witnessed any more amazing scenes.
Just fantastic. The Lions roared, and they would roar from kick-off to the final whistle. And this lifted the team, of course, and they always said the Millwall roar was worth a goal start.
Been a Millwall supporter for 67 years. He's got a grandstand. We wish you many, many more happy seasons down here at the Den with us.
Millwall's early directors, like the brothers Fred and Tom Thorne, were skilled workers and small businessmen. They established a tradition of local traders who have controlled and manipulated the club's finances and fortunes. They were greatly protective of their position, some of them founding dynasties of directors. Running a club gave local prestige and a stage on which to build business contacts. Today, the Over 50s club meets in the executive lounge. In the past, supporter involvement was unheard of. Increased investment in the club began after the cup run of 1937, with directors winning tenders for ground improvements. The supporters were treated as mere fee-paying customers, with only a limited covering being provided over concrete terracing. The directors built themselves a boardroom with a bar, offices, a palm court, and a lounge for the wives of business contacts. Facilities were poor and have remained poor.
The terraces were crumbly, the toilets were in poor shape. I think we put up with it just to see our football team, Millwall.
The facilities in general are not worth that. Quite honestly, I've been to other London clubs. The toilets here are a disgrace. I mean, they've got one over there, they've got one at the back here. You go out here at half-time and you see men making water up against the wall. They can't get in the toilet, they're lining up to get in the toilet.
After the war, there was little change. When it came to rebuilding the bomb-damaged terraces, the directors still saw no clash of interest in awarding contracts to themselves.
I worked for one of the directors here, Mr. Winders, Mr. Bill Winders. He was one of the directors here. And I worked for a still firm on the Isle of Dogs. And I think he got here through Mr. Thorne. He was another director. There were two brothers, Thorne brothers. And I think they introduced him here. Because when it got bombed down the other end of the ground here, he said, our firm done all the steelwork here and put the steelwork in.
They called themselves Millwall Football and Athletic Club Limited, and they were not duty bound to produce a balance sheet, and nobody ever knew where the money went or where it was spent.
The supporters' response was different. The group who turned up to help with the bomb damage launched a supporters club, the first in Millwall's history. 4,000 people joined. Their magazine, Focus, ran for 8 issues. The directors saw it as a threat, and, supported by the powerful manager of the time, Charlie Hewitt, who had himself previously been sacked for embezzlement of gate money, wound it up and confiscated the funds, the then substantial sum of £900.
We all came down here to a meeting on a Sunday morning, of which the famous manager, Charlie Hewitt, he was on the pitch with some other directors, and there was a hell of a row, and the supporters club was broken up. But about 12 months later, I think it was, it started up again, and we had another meeting, and it was the first time I'd heard the expression, and it came from Charlie Hewitt, the manager. He would agree to the reformation of the supporters club on the condition that the tail must never wag the dog.
Local MP Bob Mellish presented himself as an honest broker. He became president of the supporters club and later of Millwall itself. The newspapers described him as Millwall's #1 fan. He cultivated an intimate relationship with the club, which continues to this day. In the 1980s, the London Docklands Development Corporation, of which he was vice chair, were the club's first sponsors. The tradition of South London entrepreneurs continued with the arrival in 1955 of Mickey Purser, a local car dealer. He remained firmly entrenched for 20 years. Management was poor and results disappointing. Purser became the butt of fans' anger. In the late 60s, his showroom in the Old Kent Road was regularly attacked by disgruntled supporters. Discouraged from any involvement, numbers of supporters continued to organise boycotts and to put pressure on the directors, but in ways that were not always so extreme.
The only answer is you stop away, didn't you? But that's don't satisfy you, if your heart and soul's in Millwall, well, then it's obvious that you want to keep coming down. Even when they were losing, I'd still come. I'm disappointed, but what can I do? I mean, I can't lay down outside the director's front door or the director's boardroom, because he's not going to, unless you, well, I have happened where Purser had his garage smashed up in the Old Kent Road. But it didn't do no good, he still stopped here. No, I don't know the answer to that one, really.
Lots of money came in. I mean, they got money for Charlie early in the mid-50s. Where they spent that money, I don't know. Didn't do much on the grounds as such, because always on the terracing it was broken steps, and you was just getting rough results and no sort of new players, or sort of players who were finished with other clubs, and he was getting them down here, like, you know. So the ambitions didn't seem to be there.
The club used to do reasonably well. If it was doing really well, then we used to wonder how long it was before the star player was going to be sold, the Keith Wellers, the Derek Posses. If the club were doing badly, there didn't seem to be money to put into the club to boost up its efforts, and so the supporters then used to tell the directors in no uncertain terms what they thought, and rightly so, because it was never particularly close between the supporters and the directors. Most famous chairman, Mr. Purser, was never really liked down here, and that's not so nowadays. Everybody seems to be aware of who the directors and the manager and the chairman are, and seem to gradually becoming feeling part of the club.
These hooligans need a full national membership fee. These hooligans need a full national membership fee. These hooligans need a full national
From its early years as a mass spectator sport, football results and football comment have been strong selling points for newspapers, especially the local.